let's talk about UFOs. There's been some things going on recently, just this past week, on this Whistleblower with the whole UFO thing, and now it's all over YouTube. And here's the thing: if you're into this subject, which is something I've been into forever, you don't have a stop sign. You don't have a stop. Now you put your blinker on. All right, there you go. LA drivers. Anyhow, as I was saying, I've been in the ancient astronaut theory thing forever. And just as a quick thing for those of you that don't know, because I find that the people who are the most resistant to UFOs or beings from other worlds or life that exists beyond Earth are also the same people who have put the least amount of effort into looking into the subject. This is how it works. It's the same thing with politics and all that. You know, the people who are the most resistant to things, certain subjects or whatever, they're always the ones that know the least amount of information. They don't want to look into things. I don't know. They don't want their brains challenged. I think it's possible that we're kind of programmed from development to not want to look into this subject, because we're not supposed to know. This is a bigger thing, but that's just me thinking, right? So if you were to go back and look and watch the stuff, it's out there. As early as you can go back, there are depictions painted and carved inside caves that look like flying saucers and weird beings with antenna and friggin' space helmet, all kind of things that look odd next to things that look relatively normal. I say relatively because it was very stylistic, even the way that a lot of these old cave paintings were done. And then you get beyond that, and actually what's really crazy, we have these ancient structures all over the world, many of which are actually underwater, all over the planet, that are built with technologies we can't even duplicate today. And more important than those technologies is the orientation of a lot of these structures, how they reflect the heavens, all these other things. So something's going on. By the way, that rattling going on is just something in the back of the van. There's nothing wrong. It's annoying me. I got to figure it out. I'll figure it out. Anyhow, so, you know, what's happening right now, it's actually not anything new. Now, some people are going to say, well, you know, it's a psyops thing and all that. Okay, fine. Yeah, it could be. Could be. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's just real. I think that this disclosure thing has been coming. In the last few years, there's been way more stuff coming out. The government's admitted that these things exist. They've been showing you the footage. There's been pilots forever, going back decades, talking about this. It's a thing. Now, I think that it's possible that, and this is going to sound weird, but hear me out, I think it's possible that advanced beings coming from other worlds that are technologically advanced, way more so than we are, might actually be dumber than we are. I think that's why they come here. I think that's why they pick people up and do all these things. I think there's a whole thing going on. This is my own thought process. Nobody plugged this into my brain, but hear me out. Why would you think, or how could you possibly think, that beings that have better technology than we have could be dumber than we are? Look at what's happening in this world right now. The more technology that's out there, the more technologically advanced that we become. Look at the masses. People are becoming dumber. So, I mean, if you've got your phone and you can access the internet, you don't have to know anything anymore. All you have to need to know how to do who's calling who dumb, is navigate the friggin' internet, man. And you could learn how to do something right there. You're not actually learning how to do it. You're just following instructions to get something done. Now imagine you are born into some sort of society where all this technology is already there, and we're seeing it today with our kids, But imagine even greater, that any sort of conveyance that you get into, you don't have to operate it mechanically, you don't have to know how it works or anything. You just think it and it happens. That's actually going to make you dumber, because you don't know how the thing actually works, because you don't need to. Because the technology itself is self-healing and fixes itself, it builds itself and all that. Because that's where we're going with AI, right? That's the path we're on, which I think is fascinating, because I think it's possible that humans might be being taken all over the place because of their ability to problem solve. What if the purpose of us here, because the human body, man, is not who you are. You're your soul. You're a pure light being that never dies. I had an experience where I left my body and I had a conversation with something that gave me the option to go home. You can go home now. It was presented to me and I was like, well, life's been kind of interesting lately. I think I'll stick around. Okay, boom, and I came back. It's another story I've talked about in other videos. So there's something bigger. Now imagine if you're this pure light being and you don't need to know how to do anything. What if coming here and possessing a human form is like going to technical school? Like, what if that's all that this is? You get to come here and be in a body, and now you get to learn how to do things, figure things out, make mistakes, have emotions, build things, solve problems, go through all this stuff, have sex, eat food, develop your body, ruin your body, get sick, get healthy. All the things that you could do that you can't do if you're actually not in some sort of form. That starts blowing my mind, you know? Also, I think they're probably scared of us, not just because we're animals. They used animals to create our bodies to put us in, which is why we have these animalistic instincts. Why we get emotional and we're unpredictable and all that sort of thing. This is my thought process. I think it's interesting. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by any of this. I think it's time that they tell us, because it's been happening forever. I mean, Jeremy Corbell's been on this lately. You guys know about Bob Lazar. If you don't, you should know. And I mean, he said Bob Lazar talked about element 51 or something, and some other things that people made fun of him for back when he first came around and was talking about this stuff, and all the things that he said. You can call it a prediction. It's not really a prediction. He just said, here's what this is, here's how this works. He did all of this, and now it's all being presented to us as reality. I'm not talking about the whistleblower right now. I'm talking about the other stuff. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Bob Lazar. Watch the documentary on him that came out recently. And look at the interviews. Pretty good. If you like Joe Rogan, there was a great Joe Rogan interview with Bob Lazar and Jeremy Corbell. And I want to say Art Bell, but that's not who it is. There's another guy that has a beard, white hair. I think he's like in Arizona or New Mexico. He's a news guy. And people used to go to him, and he did a lot of these exposés on it. And but look into the subject and check it out, man, because this has been talked about forever. It's not anything new. It's blowing my mind to watch media right now and them talking about this like it's something new, like they've never heard about it before. Where have you been, man? Where have you been? Now, I've got my own pictures of UFOs and all that, and I did a video on it about a year ago. I'm going to put a link to that in the description below, so check that out. I'll probably put a couple other links down there. I'm going to put the link to the first report, the longer report with the interview with this new guy that just came out, who has all the credentials. He's not some crackpot. If he were to get prosecuted for revealing this, there's something going on. If nothing happens, it means another thing. If he suddenly disappears, he gets Clintoned, that would mean another thing. But I think that they've been slowly disclosing things to us forever. Forever. The Close Encounters of the Third Kind, look into that, like the background on that film and where that story originated from. Look into that. There's some pretty wild stuff out there. And I'm more of the mindset of just accept that it's all real. How's that hurting you? That's the thing I don't understand. What's the big deal? Aliens are real? Spaceships have been coming here forever? They've been experimenting on us or whatever, or taking people away. People disappear all the time. Okay. You know, it doesn't change your day to day. You still got to get up in the morning and you got to figure out how to navigate this life. And maybe that's what it's all about. Maybe that's what you're here for. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what I'm saying. I'm trying to explain it to you. You still have to get up every day and you have to figure out how to live. You got to pay your bills. You got to eat food. You should be getting some exercise. You know, you have relationships, people you have to deal with. You have to navigate this existence. So I don't see how any of that changes if beings from other worlds are real. It doesn't change anything. What would be cool is if it's accepted. You know, they've tried to get us used to the idea already with movies and TV shows. I think it was that show V, right? There was another one. What the heck? Maybe that was the one. Well, there was a series, and it was like a cop show, which was really cool, where aliens were already living on the planet, and one of them was a cop, you know, with a human partner. That was a really good show, as I recall, but I can't remember the name of it. There's been sci-fi shows out there from the original Star Trek, man. They've been trying to get us used to the idea of dealing with other beings. How many of you are Star Trek fans? Yeah, this is all about getting you used to that idea. All that stuff that's out there. So, personally, I don't. If it's not real, it doesn't affect me either. You know, you were wrong. Okay. I'm not going to cry myself to sleep over being wrong about something. I'm going to accept everything. All this is reality. It's not going to affect my life unless it affects my life. And if it affects my life in some way, I will deal with that. I'm a Marine. Adapt, improvise, overcome. Right? That's what you do. You deal with it. I was going to say a moment ago while I was driving about us being stronger. I think that these beings are probably meek, maybe, for the most part. I mean, as far as their intentions, who knows? And I think they're probably no different than humans, personality traits. There could be beings from different worlds that want to be here for different purposes. Some malevolent, some benevolent, right? Who knows? I don't know. But if you come from some other world where all these technologies exist and you just think your way through your existence, you don't need to develop your body physically. We may be way more powerful than they are, which would be scary to them, right? I mean, it seems to me that somebody's been trying to make us weaker and dumber just with the nonsense with the diet that they've been trying to shove down your throats. The human body needs certain things. You know, I love that argument with vegans all the time because your brain needs certain proteins, amino acids, fatty acids, all of that to develop and remain healthy. You can exist on a vegan diet, but your brain ain't working right. The reason you could think that that's the right way to do things is because you're not nourishing your brain properly. So I'm fascinated by this whole thing. I'm interested in how things are going to develop with it. It's a bummer for me. Like, it sounds silly, but I don't know. You have to get used to certain things that you enjoy or certain characters that you watch saying things that you don't agree with, right? Like, I don't watch the news anymore. I'm over it. Any news I'm watching on YouTube because I'm not watching network news anymore, cable news, any of it. Too much nonsense. But the one show I watch nightly that I DVR and fast forward through the commercials is Gutfeld. It happens to be on Fox News. It's a late night thing now. He's very funny and he's covering all this stuff. And they made fun of this whole thing. I wasn't happy about that. I'm thinking to myself, dude, what are you doing? Like, what? How do you not know any of this stuff? And so when you hear that, you can, in your mind, think, oh, wow, they're trying to get us to not accept it for some reason. And that bums me out. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to watch the show anymore, because for the most part, the show entertains me and it informs me. And I think it's good. I think it's a good thing that they're doing it, because and right now with the writer's strike, it's like the only late night show that's on that's current, I believe. I don't know. I'm not watching the other stuff. I haven't watched it in years. The other stuff is all the same. Any of the other late night shows, all those hosts, they're all on the same side politically. They're doing all the talking points. They're pushing the same messages. They're on a team, right? The Gutfeld show doesn't do that. So yeah, I see certain people and certain things happening, and it bums me out when they just want to shut things down. But again, this has been around forever. There's nothing new here. Nothing new. I encourage you to watch the stuff with the Jeremy Corbell, Bob Lazar thing. That interview with Rogan's pretty good. And watch you can watch all the Bob Lazar interviews on YouTube, going all the way back. I think it was the late 80s when he first came out on that. And when you learn that whole story, it's pretty wild of how that all happened. And they erased his life. They're trying to say he's not a physicist or anything. Well, look at what Bob Lazar does in his spare time. Tell me that guy's not a physicist. Guy's a walking genius, man. That guy's invented things that are hydrogen engines, all kinds of crazy stuff this guy just does. He's a mind-blowing human being. And I think there was a purpose for him, for all that to have happened. And I think that there's a great book called Our Occulted History. Occulted just means like secret. It doesn't mean witchcraft or anything. But it's called Our Occulted History by Jim Marrs. I've read it a couple times. I always have a hardcover version of it at the house. And if people are interested when they're at my house, I give it to them, and then I buy another one for myself. I got to stop doing that. I've probably bought about 5 of them already. And that's a fascinating book, because it gets into the gist of it. Just is, if you look at like the first generation of hieroglyphs in Egypt, they're perfectly done. Perfect. Everything's supposed to be carved with these rudimentary tools and soft metals and whatnot. But they really look like they're machined. And you look at them, and there's these giant humanoid beings that are blue, which also the Hindu have. If you look at the Vedic texts and all that, and the Hindu symbolism all over the place there, it's the same thing. Giant blue beings next to normal-sized human beings. And again, back to the hieroglyphs, they also have adult beings, they look like adult beings, and child beings with elongated heads next to people with normal heads. That's all there. And so the thrust of this book, the Jim Marrs book, Our Occulted History, is that those beings, they had humans working with them. They're right-hand people, They left the planet for whatever reason. Could be a cataclysmic event coming or whatever. But the humans who were still around, they started running things, and they started calling themselves gods, and they made all the other humans treat them as gods. And the people running the world today, right? People in the Bilderberg group and running other countries, monarchies, and all this stuff, they can all trace their bloodlines back to those humans from the earliest days of Egypt. And there's 40 pages of reference material in that book. And what I did was I actually bought the reference materials, many of them. One of them it's called Forbidden Archeology. Michael Cremo, I think, wrote that. Yeah, you can't read that book. I mean, it's not put together in a way that you just sit there and read it. It's just information. It goes all the way back to the earliest depictions of UFOs and all these phenomena, everything that's going on in printed form, like newspapers and all sorts of things. And it's mind-blowing. It's an encyclopedia is what it is of this information. So, plus my own experiences and things that are going on in my head sometimes, and these weird messages. It sounds crazy, but they're there. And if you forget about me, because I'm nobody, I'm just some dude with a pencil in his hat. I'm just some guy, man. But if you think about Tesla, read about Tesla. The phrase mad scientist was coined because of Tesla. Because he said he was talking to Martians. I mean, he talked about a frequency that you can tap into, which, by the way, you can all tap into. That's what meditation is. You get into your meditative state, calm yourself, try to free your brain from your normal everyday thoughts. We're being programmed all day, every day. We're being subjected to, I want to say sensational. It's not sensational, but we're constantly being bombarded with information and misinformation and, all this stuff. So we can't figure it out. We're distracted from it on purpose. I think that the ancients, like even, native peoples that didn't have any technology, I think they were more in tune with all this stuff and the earth and everything because they didn't have anything else to do, man. It all came to them. Anyhow, that's my take. I think there's something to the UFO thing here. I'm excited about it. I think it's a bummer when it gets pooped on and automatically shut down, again, by the people who've put no real time into studying the subject. I'll probably get some lame comments here, but that's okay. Do it, man. Let's create some controversy in the comments. I like when people do it. Because the people who are always negative, they don't understand that when they take the time to type these things out, they think they're all being smart, trying to shut you down. But the rest of us who read that comment and the way it's coming out, realize that person, they're not coming from it from a broader intellect. You know what I'm saying? Like they got blinders on and they're refusing. So it's interesting to me. Anyhow, it's a Saturday. I'm at the store. I got to get some ingredients. I got to make some apple pies. I haven't baked much. My dad died in 2001. He was a baker. And my favorite thing about baking was he was living in Greece. And it was great because I could call him. He had the only phone in the whole village. He pulled some strings. But I would call him whenever I baked something. It gave me an excuse to talk to him. I love my dad. And he'd always give me his little tips. And I was at the house I'm working on now. And today's a birthday party for his kid's going to be 10 years old. And I was telling him about my dad and how I hadn't baked since he died in 2001. So he asked me to bake him an apple pie for his birthday. And so I'm like, okay. Which is nice. So I'm going to go do that. I'll catch you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed this and found it interesting and laughed at me. The thing about aliens is, what if they're delicious? Alien pie.